Jai Hind students. Today I am going to summarize a very important unit of macroeconomics, that is unit 3, aggregate demand and its component. This unit is composed of 3 chapters and involve 12 marks in macroeconomics unit. So let us start with the summary of this particular unit, aggregate demand and its component. Unit 7, aggregate demand and its components. This particular unit involves 3 chapters as per your book. First one is aggregate demand, second one is the concept of equilibrium, and third one is the problem of excess demand and excess supply, excess demand and deficient demand. Now let us discuss about aggregate demand, that what is aggregate demand. Aggregate demand is actually the sum of planned expenditure of different sectors during an accounting year. During an accounting year. All of you know about different sectors. So basically there are 4 sectors in the economy: household, firm, government and external sector. So all these sectors plan to spend on final goods and services during an accounting year. So aggregate demand is the sum of the planned expenditure of these all sectors during an accounting year. So components of AD, so there are 4 basic component. First one is consumption expenditure. Consumption expenditure, C. And you all know that consumption expenditure means the planned consumption expenditure of household sector. It basically depends on 2 important component, that is disposable income and propensity to consume. Now disposable income, all of you know that disposable income is the income left after paying direct taxes. So it means that disposable income is inversely related to tax rates. If the government is raising taxes, disposable income is going to fall, and if disposable income is going to fall, then consumption expenditure is also going to fall. In the current budget, the government has increased redemption in taxes, or you can say that government has increased the limit of taxes. So what is the purpose of it? Because if the government is giving tax redemption up to 12 lakh rupees, it means that government is allowing people to have more money in their hand, so they can consume more, and it helps in increasing aggregate demand. Second one is propensity to consume. Propensity to consume is what part of income is consumer ready to spend. So if consumer have high propensity to consume, there will be more consumption expenditure and so high aggregate demand, and vice versa. Second important component is investment expenditure. Investment expenditure, I, that is investment of the private firms on capital assets, is investment expenditure. Third one is government expenditure. Government expenditure that is the expenditure of government for the purpose of consumption and investment. And the fourth one is net export. Net export, the difference between export and imports. So basically aggregate demand has four important components: C plus I plus G plus net export. These are the four important components of aggregate demand. Because we are discussing the Keynesian approach, so in Keynesian approach, AD has been taken as the sum of consumption and investment. In Keynesian approach, AD is equal to C plus I. It is because it is based on two-sector model. And you know that in two-sector model there are only two sector, household and firms. So basically in this concept of aggregate demand, we will discuss these two components, consumption and investment. Consumption. There are two types of consumption: autonomous consumption and induced consumption. Autonomous consumption, that is denoted by C bar or C0, this one is CI. Autonomous consumption is that consumption that does not depend upon the level of income. It means that even when the income is zero, for the survival we require some minimum consumption, and so it means that even at zero level of income, consumption can never be zero. So you can define autonomous consumption at zero level of income, that is positive in sense, is autonomous consumption, and the consumption that is directly related to the level of income. If income is rising, consumption is also rising. Income is falling, then consumption is also falling. That is the concept of induced consumption. So consumption has two important components: autonomous consumption and induced consumption. This is income, consumption. So if I assume consumption at different level of income, let us suppose that when the income is zero, consumption is 40. Now what is this consumption? This is what? C bar. Autonomous consumption, showing that consumption can never be zero, and at zero level of consumption, that is what? Autonomous consumption. With the rise in income, consumption is also going to rise. 120, 200, 280. So you can see that with the rise in income, consumption is also rising, and that rising part of consumption is induced consumption. So the shape of consumption curve in this case, or the consumption curve, originates from positive y-axis. Why? Because at zero level of income there is some positive consumption. So consumption curve always start from positive y-axis. This is consumption and this is income. So you can see that consumption curve is positively sloped curve and start from positive y-axis because there is some positive consumption even when the income is zero. Propensity to consume. Propensity to consume. It is of two types: average propensity average propensity to consume APC and marginal propensity to consume that is MPC. So propensity to consume is basically of two types: average propensity to consume and marginal propensity to consume. Average propensity to consume is the ratio between total consumption and total income. So what average propensity to consume is showing that what part of total income is used for consumption. Marginal propensity to consume, on the other hand, is the ratio between change in consumption and change in income. So what MPC is showing, that what part of additional income is used for consumption. For example, if the income and consumption are, when income is 10,000, consumption is 8,000. So what is APC in this case? 8,000 upon 10,000 is equal to 0.8. When income is rising 11,000, consumption is also rising, and this is 8,500. Because of the rise in income, there is rise in consumption. So what is MPC in this case? There is rise in consumption by 500 and rise in income by 1,000. It comes 0.5. So APC is 0.8 in this case and MPC is 0.5. Now what does it mean? This 0.8 is showing that 0.8 part of total income is used for consumption, and this 0.5 is indicating that 50% of additional income is used for consumption. For example, when there is rise in income by 1,000, there is rise in consumption by 500. It means that 50% of additional income is used for consumption. One very important thing, that APC is always greater than 0. It can never be 0 or negative. APC is always positive and its value is always more than 0. Whereas in case of MPC, the value of MPC is greater than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 1. It means that the value of MPC lies between 0 and 1. So this is the range of marginal propensity to consume, and this is the range of average propensity to consume, that it is always going to be greater than 0 and it lies between 0 and 1. Saving function. Saving. So you can say that saving is the difference between income and consumption. What part of income is not used for consumption is saving. So income, consumption and saving. So this is what consumption at different level of income. And this is saving, minus 40, minus 20, 0, 20. So what does it mean? That at 0 level of income, saving is negative. Saving is negative means it is saving. Because consumption is positive at 0 level, so this positive consumption is reducing saving with the consumers. So saving is going to be minus 40. It means that saving curve is going to start from negative y-axis. This is saving and this is income, saving curve start from negative y-axis because at zero level of income there is some positive consumption, so saving is going to be negative, so it is going to start from negative y-axis and it is what? Minus C bar. Whatever positive consumption at zero level of income, the same is the negative saving at zero level, so this is going to be minus C bar. Propensity to save. Now again, very similar to the concept of propensity to consume, that what part of income is used for consumption. Similarly, propensity to save, that what part of income is actually going to be saved. It is also of two types, APS and MPS. Average propensity to save and marginal propensity to save. Average propensity to save is the ratio between saving and income, and marginal propensity to save is the ratio between change in saving and change in income. The concept is same. What part of income is going to be saved and what part of additional income is going to be saved? What part of total income is going to be saved? What part of additional income is going to be saved is the basic difference between APS and MPS. The value of APS is always less than 1. It can never be 1 or more than 1, because we know that APS is S upon Y. APS can be 1 only when saving and income are equal to each other. That is not possible because there is some positive consumption. Consumption can never be 0. So value of APS remain less than 1. Whereas the range of MPS is very similar to the range of MPC, between 0 and 1. This is the range of marginal propensity to save, more than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 1. APC plus APS is equal to 1. APC plus APS is equal to 1, and in similarly MPC plus MPS is equal to 1. But if I ask that what is APC plus MPC, is it going to be 1 or any other value? So you can simply say that there is no such relation between average propensity to consume and marginal propensity to consume, because this one is related to total income, whereas this is related to change in income. So both of the concepts do not relate to each other. The next important component is investment I. I hope all of you know that what is investment. Investment is actually increase in the stock of capital asset or increase in the capacity of firm to produce more. Investment is also of two types: autonomous investment and induced investment. Autonomous investment and induced investment. Autonomous investment is the investment that is normally done for social welfare, and so does not depend upon the level of income. So even if the income is 0, there is some positive investment in the economy, and that positive investment at 0 level of income is autonomous investment. It does not depend upon the level of income. So autonomous investment curve is parallel to x-axis. There is some positive consumption at zero level, and because it does not change with the level of income, it remains constant parallel to x-axis. Induced investment, on the other hand, is the investment that is directly related to the level of income, level of profit. So this investment is done for earning profit. And so induced investment curve is positive slope, showing that with the rise in income, investment rises, and with the fall in income, investment falls. So autonomous investment, the basic purpose of autonomous investment is social welfare. The basic purpose of induced investment is earning profit. So we can say that normally autonomous investment is done by the government, and it is normally done by the private firms. The next very important concept is the concept of investment multiplier. Investment multiplier, that is denoted using the symbol K, investment multiplier. Now what is investment multiplier? Whenever a new investment is done in the economy, there is rise in national income. You know that if we do some investment, surely it is going to increase income. If your income is rising, that it means that national income is also going to rise. So investment has multiplier effect on income. What does it mean? If you are investing, national income is going to rise surely, there is no doubt for that. But most of the time, the rise in national income is more than the rise in investment. For example, if there is investment of 100 crore in the economy, in response of that, national income is rising by 400 crore. So 100 crore investment is increasing national income by 400. It means that investment has multiplier effect on income. Income is rising 4 times of the rise in investment. This is what? Investment multiplier. So investment multiplier is the ratio between change in income and change in investment. K is equal to delta Y upon delta I. That investment multiplier is directly related to MPC. Investment multiplier is directly related to MPC. It means that K is equal to 1 upon 1 minus MPC. If there is high propensity to consume, investment will be more effective in the economy, and vice versa. And inversely related to MPS, K is equal to 1 upon MPS. So there is a direct relation between MPC and multiplier, an inverse relation between MPS and multiplier. The next question is that if there is rise in investment, why is there more rise in national income? So what is the working of investment multiplier? So basically investment multiplier, or the working of investment multiplier, is based on 2 or 3 important facts. First fact, that whenever there is rise in income, there is rise in consumption. If my income is rising, my consumption is also going to rising, maybe not in same proportion, but it will rise. And second important thing is that consumption of one is income for others. If I am using or if I am spending money for consumption, surely it will generate to income to someone else. So one's consumption is income for others. These are the two important components in the working of investment multiplier. Means investment multiplier is working because of these two important facts. And for clearing this thing, let us discuss a table round change in investment, change in income, change in consumption, which is equal to marginal propensity to consume multiple delta y. And if I assume that delta I is equal to 100 and MPC is equal to 0.5. Let us assume that in economy investment is rising by 100 and MPC is 0.5. So what will happen in the first round? There is rise in investment by 1000, no, this is 100. Sorry, it is 1000. So there will rise in income also by 1000. If there is increase in investment by 1000, there is rise in income by 1000 economy, because whenever you purchase capital asset, it generates the same amount of income to others. Now what is MPC? 0.5, showing that because of this rise in income, there will be rise in consumption, but because MPC is 0.5, 0.5 into 1000 is equal to 500. When there is increase in investment, there is increase in income. Increase in income leads to increase in consumption. Second round, no change in investment. Now this particular rise in consumption will be the income of someone else. Rise in consumption leads to rise in income. 0.5 into 500, because the MPC is 0.5, it means that consumer spend 50% of additional income on consumption. This is my assumption. That is going to be 250. Third round, no change in investment. The same increase in consumption will be income for someone else, lead again to rise in consumption, and this process goes on. This process goes on till your delta C become, or delta C in the economy become 0 or almost negligible. Till this process goes on. Now what is value of K? K is equal to 1 upon 1 minus MPC. So K is equal to 1 upon 1 minus 0.5. 1 upon 0.5 is equal to 2. This is the value of investment multiplier. So K is equal to delta Y upon delta I. 2 is equal to change in Y upon 1000. The change in Y is of 2000. So because of rise in investment by 1000, there is rise in income by 2000. This is what? Multiplier effect of investment on income. And this 2000, because MPC is 0.5. If MPC is going to be high, then the value of delta Y is also going to be high, because the value of K will rise with the rise in MPC. This is what? Working of investment multiplier. Now let us move to the next concept, that is aggregate supply, AS. Aggregate supply, AS. Aggregate supply is actually sum of planned output by all firms during an accounting year. Aggregate supply, supply of all goods and services produced in the economy, or sum of the planned output of all firms in the economy during an accounting year. सारे firms मिलके जितना प्लान करें कि पर्टिकुलर ईयर में वो कितना गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज को प्रोड्यूस करेंगे. दैट इज़ व्हाट सम ऑफ planned output by all the firms, and it is going to be aggregate supply is going to be consumption plus saving, and we all know that consumption plus saving is income. So AS is equal to income. The value of national income, value of domestic income is actually aggregate supply. Aggregate supply curve, AS curve, is 45-degree positively sloped curve. AS curve is 45-degree positively sloped curve. Now, why it is positively sloped curve? The reason is that we know that aggregate supply is equal to income. So it is showing that this aggregate supply curve is of equal distance from y-axis and x-axis. जितना ये x-axis से इसका distance है उतना ही ये y-axis से भी है, because AS और Y की value क्या है? Same. So it is going to be bisector of this line and it becomes 45-degree positively sloped line. This is what aggregate supply curve. There is one concept of consumption equation which is also called consumption function. C is equal to C bar plus by. C is equal to C bar plus by. C bar, I hope you understand that what is C bar. This is autonomous consumption. B stand for MPC and Y stand for income. Consumption has two parts, autonomous consumption and induced consumption. So basically this one is showing autonomous, other one is showing, other part is showing induced consumption. And then what is saving equation? Saving is equal to income minus consumption, income minus C bar plus by, C bar minus by. So when you simplify this one, it comes minus C bar plus 1 minus by. And what is 1 minus b? This is MPS. This is going to be what? Saving equation. Saving equation is minus C bar plus 1 minus by, and 1 minus b is MPS. Determination of income and output. Determination of income and output. Now we are going to discuss where the actually economy is going to be in state of equilibrium. And state of equilibrium means there is no tendency to increase or decrease of national income. Economy is going to be stable. How this point is going to be decided, determined. And for this purpose, there are two concepts, two approaches basically. First one is ADAS approach. ADAS approach. According to ADAS approach, economy is going to achieve equilibrium, economy is going to stable where aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. You all know that what is the meaning of aggregate demand? Sum of planned expenditure of household and firm. And what is aggregate supply? Sum of planned output by all the firms. It means that whatever household and firms are planning to spend on final goods and services, the same amount firm is also planning to produce in the economy. So in that case, economy is going to be in the state of equilibrium. Aggregate demand, we know that C plus I, and aggregate supply, that is C plus S, or in other words we can say that C plus I is equal to Y, because consumption plus saving is going to be income. This is aggregate supply curve, which I feel all of you know that. Aggregate supply curve is going to be 45-degree curve. Aggregate supply curve is 45-degree curve. I have just explained that why is it 45-degree curve. On x-axis, income and output are shown, and on y-axis aggregate demand and aggregate supply are shown. You know that aggregate demand curve start from positive y-axis, and this is going to be aggregate demand, which is the sum of C and I, consumption and investment. Both of the curve are meeting, intersecting each other at point E. So this point is going to be the point of equilibrium, because at this point AD and AS are equal to each other. So equilibrium level of income is OY. Why? Because when the income in the economy is OY, or the level of output is OY, at this level AD and AS both are equal to each other. So this is going to be point of equilibrium, and this is going to be equilibrium level of income. But if value of national income is less than it, say Y0, so at this level of income you can see that AD and AS are not equal, but AD is more than AS. Aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply, and if national income is going to more than it, say Y1, then you can see that at this level AD is less than AS. So there are two possibilities when economy is not in the state of equilibrium. Either AD is going to be greater than AS, or AD is going to be less than AS. So what will happen when AD and AS are not equal to each other and economy is not in the state of equilibrium? What adjustment take place? So suppose that if aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. Now first, what does it mean? It is showing that planned expenditure of household and firms are more than planned output by all firms. Whatever demand is going to be created in the economy by household and firm, the similar production will not be available in the economy, because firm has planned to produce less goods and services as compared to probable demand in the economy. Now this particular situation this particular situation will lead to fall in intended inventories with firms. Now, whatever stocks firms have planned to do, the same investment is going to be reduced because demand is more than supply. To meet supply, firms have to supply from their stocks. So it means that it is going to reduce their intended inventories or desired inventories. And when this situation happens, firms plan to produce more. Firms plan to produce more. And why they are planning to produce more? To maintain their desired inventories, to maintain their intended inventories. And when firms plan to produce and they are going to produce more, there will rise in income and output till AD equal AS. So this particular situation, when the aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply, leads to rise in national income. And this rise in national income and output till economy is going to be in the state of equilibrium again. On the other hand, if we have the situation AD less than AS, just opposite situation, that the planned expenditure of household and firm is less than planned output by all the firms. Whatever household and firms are planning to spend, the more firms are planning to produce. So in this situation, when AD is less than AS, because firms are planning to produce more and household and firms are planning to spend less, so surely some part of total production will remain unsold, and that remain unsold is going to increase inventories with firms. This inventory that is going to rise is not the desired inventories, because this inventory is going to rise because firms would not be able to sell product because of deficient demand in the economy. That's why this situation will lead to rise in unintended inventories. Unintended inventories with firms, or there will be accumulation of unintended, undesired, unplanned inventories with firms. Now ये वो inventories है जो firms रखना नहीं चाहते, but उनको क्यों रखना पड़ रहा है? क्योंकि उन्होंने जो प्रोडक्शन का प्लान किया वो टोटल वो सेल नहीं कर पाएंगे क्योंकि एग्रीगेट डिमांड मार्केट में कम है. And as a firm we know that if there is rise in undesired inventories, surely in this situation we will plan to produce less, because first we want to clear our undesired inventories and then we start or we will increase our production. So when there is accumulation of unintended inventories, firms plan to cut production. Now they will cut production, and when they plan to cut production, surely this situation there will fall in income and output in the economy till AD equal AS. So when aggregate demand is deficient of aggregate supply, there will fall in national income till AD equal AS. So it means that economy cannot remain unstable. Economy cannot remain in the state of disequilibrium. if economy is not in the state of equilibrium, some automatic mechanism take place that will bring economy again in the state of equilibrium. This particular mechanism is called automatic stabilization measures. No one is doing this thing. कोई गवर्नमेंट कोई फर्म नहीं कर रहा, बल्कि जो सिचुएशन है एग्रीगेट डिमांड और एग्रीगेट सप्लाई के डेफिशिएंट या सरप्लस होने का, वो इकोनॉमी को वापस अपने पोजीशन ऑफ इक्विलिब्रियम पे लेके आता है. दिस इज कॉल्ड ऑटोमेटिक स्टेबलाइजेशन. And the point where AD and AS are equal, that point is also the point of effective demand. Effective demand is the point where the aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other. So this is what determination of equilibrium using AD-AS approach. The second approach is saving investment approach. Saving investment approach, SI approach. According to SI approach, equilibrium level of income is going to be decided where saving is equal to investment. What is saving here? Saving is actually ex ante saving and investment is ex ante investment. Now what is ex ante saving and ex ante investment? Planned saving and planned investment. Whatever household is planning to save is ex ante saving, and whatever firms are planning to invest is ex ante investment. So in other words, simply you can say that economy is going to be in the state of equilibrium when the planned saving and planned investment are equal to each other. So we all know that in Keynesian approach, investment is used as autonomous investment. Autonomous investment is always positive and start from the positive y-axis and remain constant at each level of income. Saving curve start from negative y-axis because there is some positive consumption even at zero level of income. Already we discussed. This is the point where saving and investment are equal to each other. So this is the point of equilibrium. So what is equilibrium level of national income? This is going to be equilibrium level of national income, because at this level of national income, I and S are equal to each other. So again, if in the economy, saving and investment are not same, it will happen when your national income is less than it. Here you can say that investment is more than saving, or if the national income is going to be more than equilibrium level, then investment is less than saving. So these are the two possibilities. One, when I is going to be more than S, investment is going to be more than saving, or second one, when I is less than going to saving. So if I is greater than saving, then what will happen? I greater than saving. Planned investment is going to be more than planned saving. Planned investment is going to be more than planned saving. If we add consumption both sides, C plus I, C plus S. C cancel each other, C plus I comes AD and C plus S come AS. So if investment is more than saving, it leads to aggregate demand is surplus of aggregate supply. So I greater S simply implies that aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply, and same adjustment will take place. The adjustment that we have in the case of AD greater than AS, the same adjustment will be happen in case when I is greater than S. Fall in intended inventories with firms. So to cut this, so to increase their planned inventories or desired inventories, firms would plan to produce more. And when firms plan to produce more, there will rise in income and output in the economy till I equal S. The same adjustment you need to explain in case of I greater than S as you are going to explain in the case of AD greater than AS. The second case, when I is less than saving. Again, if we add consumption both sides, C plus I implies AD, C plus S imply AS. This situation is showing AD less than AS. So if I is less than saving, this situation is actually the situation of AD less than AS. And we know that what happened in case of AD less than AS. When aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply, there is accumulation of unintended inventories. So to cut their unintended inventories, firms plan to cut production. When firms plan to cut production, there will fall in income and output in the economy till I equal S. So explaining the concept of investment and supply, you can use the concept of AD and AS approach also. There are other means to explain the same thing also, but it is going to be simple. When you connect these two approaches, then your explanation remain the same. I hope I am clear in explaining the concept of determination of income and output using AD AS approach and saving investment approach. The third chapter is basically the chapter that explain what will happen when there is a problem of excess demand or problem of deficient demand in the economy. So what is excess demand? Excess demand. This is aggregate supply curve and this is aggregate demand curve. Now what is this aggregate demand curve? This aggregate demand curve, that is ADF, is actually desired aggregate demand for achieving full employment. Now what is full employment? Full employment is a situation where all those who are ready, who are capable to perform economic activities are getting employment. So in the case of full employment, no involuntary unemployment is found. Everyone who are capable and are ready to be employed at the existing rate of wage are getting employment. So there is no case of involuntary unemployment in case of full employment. So if an economy wants to achieve equilibrium at full employment level, this is desired AD. इतना aggregate demand होना चाहिए. अगर economy क्या चाहता है कि उसको equilibrium कहाँ पे achieve हो? Full employment पे. This is full employment level of income. But suppose that this is what desired condition, ideal situation, that economy is in the state of equilibrium as well as इकोनॉमी इज एट फुल एम्प्लॉयमेंट लेवल। तो ये एकदम आइडियल सिचुएशन है, राम राज जिसको मान लो कि राम राज हो गया, एवरीथिंग इज इन करेक्ट पोजीशन, देयर इज नो प्रॉब्लम इन द इकोनॉमी। बट in real sense we do not have this type of situation in the economy. So if the current aggregate demand is more than this desired AD, this is your current AD, this is your desired AD, and this is your current AD, your actual AD. So in this case you can see that at full employment level of income, at full employment level of income, desired AD से actual AD ज़्यादा है. This is your current AD, this is your desired AD. Current AD desired AD से ज़्यादा है. कहाँ पे? Full employment पे. So what can we say it? And this is actually showing the problem of excess demand. So how can we define excess demand? When current AD or actual AD is more than desired AD for achieving full employment, then that condition is called excess demand. Current AD या actual AD desired AD से full employment level पे अगर ज़्यादा होता है, then that is the situation of what? Excess demand. Again I'm repeating, when current or actual AD is more than desired AD corresponding to full employment level of income, that is the situation of excess demand. So here F is actually solving the problem of excess demand. And whenever there is a problem of excess demand, we can see that there is a gap exists between actual AD and aggregate supply. This is what? This gap is what? Inflationary gap. This gap is what? Inflationary gap. So in the case of excess demand, there is a gap exists between actual AD and desired AD corresponding to full employment level. This particular gap is called inflationary gap. The second condition that is possible is the case of deficient demand. Deficient demand. This is your aggregate supply. This is your desired AD. Now desired AD for what? For achieving full employment level. For achieving full employment level, this is your desired AD for achieving full employment level. But the actual AD is less than it, or the current aggregate demand is not sufficient to reach full employment equilibrium. Aggregate demand economy में sufficient नहीं है जो economy को full employment पे पहुंचा दे. जो actual AD है, current AD है, is less than our desired aggregate demand. This is what? Current AD. So again here in this case you can see that current AD is less than desired AD corresponding to full employment level of income. And this deficient of demand, this deficient of demand is what? The problem of deficient demand. This is ADAS. On x-axis we show income and output. Income and output. So when there is deficient demand in the economy, you can see a gap between desired AD and current AD corresponding to full employment level of income, and this gap, this particular gap is called deflationary gap. Deflationary gap. This is what? Inflationary gap. And in case of deficient demand, the gap exists between actual AD and desired AD corresponding to full employment level of income is deflationary gap. So why do we have these two problems in the economy, excess demand or deficient demand? So excess demand means aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. Now why we have more aggregate demand? Because if there is rise in consumption expenditure, if there is rise in investment expenditure, so it leads to rise in aggregate demand. An economy can face the problem of excess demand, and just opposite in case of deficient demand, that if the consumption expenditure is falling, if investment expenditure is falling, economy can face the problem of deficient demand. If there is excess demand, surely if demand is more than supply in the market leads to rise in general price level, economy will face inflation. But if there is deficient of demand as compared to aggregate supply, demand is less than supply, price will remain or price will fall, leads to the problem of deflation. So these are the two possible situations that economy can face: excess demand and deficient demand. Now, if there is excess demand, if there is excess demand in the economy, then in this case you can see that equality between current AD and AS is achieved at this point, and this point is achieved after full employment level of income. The equality between actual AD and AS is achieved here at point E1, that is more than full employment level of income. This equilibrium is termed as overemployment equilibrium. Overemployment equilibrium. So whenever there is excess demand in the economy, equality between actual AD and AS is achieved after full employment level of income. That is the situation of overemployment equilibrium. And when we have the problem of deficient demand, you can see the equality between actual AD or current AD and AS is achieved here before full employment level of income. This is termed as underemployment equilibrium. Underemployment equilibrium. So according to Keynes, it is not necessary that economy always achieves equilibrium at full employment level. There are three possibilities. First, economy can achieve full employment equilibrium when AD and AS are equal to each other at full employment. Second possibility, that economy can achieve overemployment equilibrium. This happens when there is excess demand in the economy. And the next one is underemployment equilibrium. It happens when there is deficient demand in the economy and equality between actual AD and AS is achieved before full employment of level of income, and this is very practical situation in most of the economy, that economy is at underemployment equilibrium. Our AD is not sufficient that reach or that help economy to reach at the state of full employment equilibrium. So most of the time in these three type of employment, overemployment equilibrium, full employment equilibrium or underemployment equilibrium, in board examination most of the time question is asked from underemployment equilibrium. So this concept is very important for you. Underemployment equilibrium, for example, what is underemployment equilibrium, what are the causes behind it, what should government do that can help economy to reach full employment equilibrium. This type of question can be asked. So please check this concept very carefully, underemployment equilibrium. So there are some numericals also based on the concept of your consumption equation or ADAS approach में C plus I is equal to Y, or on the concept of investment multiplier, go through that numericals also. And next important thing is related to monetary and fiscal measures to control the problem of excess demand and excess deficient demand. If there is a problem of excess demand, or if there is a problem of deficient demand, then how these problems are going to be controlled. So for that measures we have two important things. That one is fiscal measures and monetary measures. This is also important part. Fiscal measures, the measures taken by the government to control money supply. Fiscal measures are the measures of the government to control money supply. Monetary measures are the measures taken by the RBI to control money supply, or by the central bank to control money supply. This particular part, for you can refer credit control measures by central bank like CRR, open market operation, reverse repo rate, margin requirement, etc., whereas fiscal measure is basically related to taxation and expenditure policy of the government. So if there is excess demand, then what can government do to control? That one is what? Rise in taxes. क्योंकि क्या गवर्नमेंट का पर्पस होगा कि एग्रीगेट डिमांड को कम कराना है, तो गवर्नमेंट टैक्सेस को बढ़ाएगा. टैक्सेस बढ़ाता है तो डिस्पोजेबल इनकम कम होगा, and with the fall in disposable income, aggregate demand falls. And the second one is cut in expenditure. गवर्नमेंट अपने एक्सपेंडिचर को कम करेगा जिससे कि मार्केट में मनी सप्लाई कम हो, और अगर मनी सप्लाई कम होगा तो भी एग्रीगेट डिमांड फॉल करेगा. So basically these two are the important fiscal measures to control excess demand, and to control deficient demand, cut in tax rate. जो गवर्नमेंट ने अभी किया, गवर्नमेंट ने इसीलिए किया क्योंकि लोगों के पास पैसे नहीं थे, उनके पास डिस्पोजेबल इनकम है नहीं, कम है, इसलिए गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया, टैक्सेस को कम किया जिससे कि लोगों के हाथ में पॉकेट में पैसा जाए और वो ज़्यादा पैसा खर्च करे, एग्रीगेट डिमांड बढ़े और प्रोडक्शन एक्टिविटीज़ इकोनॉमी में राइज हो, जिससे कि अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट की प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो पाए. सो फॉर कंट्रोलिंग डेफिशिएंट डिमांड, कट इन टैक्स रेट और rise in expenditure. And you know that when there is rise in taxes and cut in expenditure, it is actually showing the concept of surplus budget, and cut in tax rate and rise in expenditure showing the concept of deficit budget. So these are the important points in this particular unit that I have explained. I tried to explain everything that is important from this particular unit. You go through it, you check this one, read your books and solve the question.